Hey, dear friends, it is really good to be with you today. It is January 17th, and I will tell you, I was a little weepy, y'all, when I read, when Joseph arrived, he embraced his father and wept, holding him for a long time. And he's, now I'm ready to die. I've seen your face and I know you're still alive. Having recently lost my father, not lost as in misplaced, but my father changed addresses. And having recently experienced him being gone, I was very tendered to this scene. And that moment, Jacob didn't want to let him go. And I love that. And I'm sure that was probably tender to many of your hearts as well. It is said that Jesus can be represented in every chapter of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. Yes, Jesus from the New Testament is represented in the Old Testament. And we see him in lots of places. And maybe one day we'll have a special teaching apart from Read Through the Word that identifies where Jesus was in those. I know Priscilla Schreier has a great printout somewhere, I believe, from her Bible study, The Armor of God, if I'm not mistaken. Might not be that Bible study, but anyways, of the presence of Jesus in every chapter of the Bible. But today, I saw him closely in the person of Joseph. I wonder if any of you have seen the resemblance between the two of them. And let's see, I think I had, no, I thought I had an article here to a link, but I guess I didn't. Maybe I just looked at one and I thought, I'm not going to share that one because there was something else on there that maybe wasn't quite, it was a little off. But I love the whole scene in 47, 1 through 12, between Joseph, the brothers, and Pharaoh, and Jacob and the brothers. The brothers and Pharaoh, Joseph and the brothers and Pharaoh. That whole scene there is very, very interesting because and I'm not teaching on this, but I want to mention this, the blessing that Pharaoh received from Jacob. He didn't hesitate one moment to bless Pharaoh, which Pharaoh in the Egyptians' eyes was equal to God. And for a God to receive a blessing from a small g God, to receive a blessing from the big G God, was huge for him to receive that from Jacob, which means he recognized something in Jacob. Again, it kind of reminded me of my father in his, oh my gosh, his whole life, my whole life. I remember even as a young child going, being a little embarrassed to share my faith. My father never was. He didn't care who you were, where you came from, what color your skin was, what nationality you were, whether you're poor, whether you were rich. If he happened to run across you, whether it was on the lumber yard or if he was, picking out brick for a house, or he was at the plumber's, or wherever he was, he'd strike up a conversation. He'd say, "Where do you go to church?" I mean, it's not a blessing, but it's that conversation breaker. It's that confidence of, I know who I am. So Jacob was like, I know who I am, and I know who my God is, and I know who they think you are. I wasn't even going to teach on that, but isn't that interesting? So I listed the similarities between Joseph and Jesus, and I wonder if maybe you saw them too, and maybe you saw similar ones. That would be interesting for you to share maybe in the comments. But they were both close to their father. They were both rejected by their family. They were both sold for money. Interesting. They both resisted temptation. Remember Joseph and Potiphar? Potiphar's wife, not Potiphar, Miss Potiphar. And Joseph allowed his pain and God's plan to be used to save the people of Egypt. He could have been bitter. He could have just been so ugly and hateful. But instead, God gave him those visions and he shared them and he saved the people of Egypt. And Jesus allowed his pain and God's plan to be used to save the world. Very, very similar. And I noticed today how similar that we are like the brothers. Did you look at the key verse from 47 verse 5? Chapter 47 verse 5? Where Pharaoh says to Joseph, I may have put did I put the wrong verse in here? I think I put the wrong reference in here. No, here it is, verse 6. I did put the wrong verse down there. It's supposed to be verse 6. Pharaoh says to Joseph, now that your father and brothers have joined you here, choose any place in the entire land of Egypt for them to live. Give them the best land in Egypt. Let them live in the region of Goshen. And if any of them have special skills, put them in charge of my livestock too. In other words, give them the best and give them a job. Right? They received the best and did nothing to earn it, all because of Joseph. We received the best and did nothing and do nothing to earn it, all because of Jesus. The similarities are just remarkable. I put some verses there because that's just what I do. I love to put references to support my teachings and the thoughts that God gives me for our lessons each day because they're my anchor. I know that many of you have heard this story before, and I'll probably tell it again because it's one of my favorite stories about my little boy who's now almost 6'1", and he's 22, almost, let's see. Yeah, he'd be 22 in April. And he was a little itty bitty, and I was really getting into the Word, diving into the Word, and told him one day a Bible verse about something, and he just looked at me. He said, Mom, there's a verse for everything. And I said, oh, you have no idea how true that statement is. But there is a verse for everything. And for anyone who's a little intimidated of digging in and trying to find that verse, please don't be. I'm just like you. What did I do? I put in my search, my DuckDuckGo search, verse about whatever I'm looking up. You can do the same thing. So I've given you a head start. Maybe you can do some more research about God's blessing, God's inheritance to us, however you want to phrase that. But God's best, that we did nothing to deserve. We did nothing to deserve it, and we can do nothing to lose. Right? We didn't do anything to deserve any of that. And we can't lose it. I mentioned earlier my dad changing addresses, and my mom changed addresses last April. My dad changed addresses in August, and we have cleaned up his home and have sold his home. And my brother and I are the recipient of the selling of that home, the money that comes from that home. I did nothing to deserve it. It's not mine. I didn't earn it, but it was given to me. It was willed to me. It was my inheritance. This is the same thing. It is your inheritance. Now to him who is able to, by the way, this is the Amplified Version, and it just might preach the balls off a pool table. I'm telling you. Now to him who is able to carry out his purpose and to do super abundantly more than all we can dare to ask and think or think. What does this mean? This means, what do you think is the greatest thing? Well, he's capable of doing more than the greatest thing. Infinitely beyond our greatest prayers, hopes, and dreams, according to his power that is at work within us. We did nothing to earn it, and we can't do anything to lose the abundantly more, super abundantly more. We did nothing to deserve, nor can we lose the way that God will supply for our needs according to his riches and his glory. We did nothing to deserve. We could do nothing to lose. All the things that he wants to add to us if we seek his kingdom and his righteousness. We cannot lose our salvation. He died for us while we were still sinners. We didn't deserve it, and we can't lose it. And he was the sacrifice to take away our sins and the sins of the entire world. We can't lose it, and we certainly didn't deserve it. Joseph and Jesus, two of a kind, very, very similar. Of course, different. One was a deity and one was man, but Jesus was deity and a man, a flesh, deity wrapped in flesh, and experienced the same things that you and I experience. And we'll talk more about that, a lot more about that when we get to the New Testament. We got a lot of ground to cover between now and New Testament Day in September. Y'all have a great day, and we will see you next time on Read Through the Word.